Hello, it's Scott Manley here on the EVE Online test server. Rubicon is here and we are testing it. And first thing I'm starting with is this interceptor in this newly redesigned warp disruption bubble. And I am, of course, warping out of it. And also in the bottom left you can see the old warp speed behavior. The new warp speed behavior is much faster. The actual peak warp speed on this spacecraft is much lower than the old version of the Raptor, but the acceleration is so much faster. You see that I managed to cover the distance, reach the gate and jump through, and the other spacecraft is still in warp. It hasn't even landed on the gate yet. Oh, and yeah, the other gate, or the one in the bottom left, was actually about half the distance. But other things to look at is the new ship tree, which lets you take a look at the different racial ship designs. For example, this is the Ore ship tree. You can see down there the Noctis, the Orca, and the Oracle. Then there's the mining, the Venture, the mining barges. You can have the Pirates, which you'll see is a blend of two races. For some reason, Sancha isn't quite right. It's shown as a blending of Amarian and Galente, when of course it's a blend of Caldari and Amarian. They have basically shield tanked laser ships. But yeah, the idea is that you can see the various ship requirements, skill requirements, and link one ship to the other and browse through all this. And in theory, it will make it easier for you newbies out there to figure out what ships you want to fly and what you can fly and what you should be training for next. It's quite a good way of exploring the 200 plus ship hulls that are actually in the game now. There's some stats here. It says, Minmatar Republic is a glorious faction that will one day rule the world, right? Actually, they are an interstellar alliance, therefore they rule hundreds of worlds already. Ruling the universe, or at least the EVE cluster is what they're after. This is the carrier. The Hell is their super carrier. And, yep, you need all these skills to fly it, it tells you. The battleships... Very nice. The Vargar, which does not yet have the animations, but will have a new Bastion mode animation, which we'll look at later. What else? We have the command ships here. This is the Claymore. The Sleipnir has been changed, and it now looks like a Tech 2 Hurricane. Similarly, all the other Tier 2 battle cruisers have been changed. The Absolution becomes a Tech 2 Harbinger, which makes it look awesome, of course. I can't wait to fly one of these. The Nighthawk becomes a Tech 2 Drake. Maybe some will fly this, because nobody flies Drakes anymore, because they're not nearly as good as they used to be. And, of course, the Eos becomes a Tech 2 Myrmidon. Vertical and pretty darn bumpy and cool looking. I always thought the Myrm was a great ship. Anyway, other new ships, we have the Sisters of Eve have a couple of ships, possibly 3 ships. This is the Estero. This is a frigate which requires Amarian and Galente frigate skills. It is able to fit covert ops cloaks. The texturing is not there just yet, but the designs I've seen have been white and red, so this actually is probably pretty close to the design without some highlighting. Yeah, it can fit a covert ops cloak. It gets bonuses to scanning and relic and data and analyzers, and it gets a bonus to drone skills. The frigate is not considered to be particularly good generally, but it does have it has its strong points. It is the only Tech 1 frigate that can fit a covert ops cloak, whatever that is. Supposedly that's something to do with moving that warp signature into that ring. I think a certain theoretician would be quite impressed by having the warp drive in a ring, huh? It's all the rage these days. You can also see the new mastery system here, showing me that apparently I'm only able to do level 1 with this because I don't have electronic warfare drone interfacing at a sufficiently high level. Pretty much requires getting lots of things to level 5 if you want mastery level 5. Moving on, we have the Stratios, which again is untextured at this time, but is right now a much more of a beast of a ship. This gets a bonus to drone damage and hit points, and apparently is a cruiser that can put out 700 DPS right now. It has armor resist bonuses and will probably be nerfed. It's also covert ops capable, so a cruiser that's covert ops capable and it puts out that amount of DPS is potentially unbalancing. This was one of the first vessels the Sisters of Eve made available to capsuleers that had been under development by the Sanctuary corporations, whose interest in exploration includes not only search and rescue operations, but also a constant inquiry into the nature of the Eve Gate. Thanks to the Sisters' efforts and the Sanctuary's particular expertise, the Stratios is an agile, tenacious ship that aptly adheres to the mantra of both rescuers and explorers. Stay safe, stay hidden, and use every tool at your disposal. I love this flavor text. The game is full of this stuff, and you can read it forever and ever. It is particularly adept at venturing into dangerous territories. Anyway, the other one, which has not been announced, but is there if you search for it in the database, is the Nestor. It is probably a placeholder because this looks like a terrible design that doesn't fit in with any of the others. But maybe not. They've only shown us a cruiser and a frigate, and they mention that they use covert ops cloaks. I highly doubt the battleship will be able to use covert ops cloaks, because that would be really kind of unbalancing, making it the only battleship-sized hull capable of fitting a covert ops cloak. But we'll see if this actually ever makes it onto the system. It doesn't have that ring thing, so perhaps that would be their excuse. I guess it would be a drone battleship with lasers. It does look kind of like a Star Destroyer, I have to say. It's kind of low poly. I suspect this is really just a placeholder. The stats are kind of mostly made up, and there's no real bonuses to speak of. Moving on. Yes. The Golem. This is the new Tech 2 Marauder. We already have had these, and they're generally considered rubbish in PvP because of their vulnerability to electronic or ECM. Now they have Bastion mode, which means these wing things kind of fold out and show the blue shiny stuff inside, whatever that is. But that blue shiny stuff will give it all sorts of bonuses, but it will make it sit still. Now, right now, there is some debate or discussion as to what exactly the bonuses will be when these things are deployed in Bastion mode, but they kind of go back and forth between being incredibly awesome and kind of a wet, rag. This is the Chronos. This is the Galente Tech 2 battleship, basically. You see it deploys again, similar way. The hull kind of moves around, and then you get to see the heart of the TARDIS or whatever in there. I have no idea what that is. It looks kind of cool. But the stats are up in the air. I hope that the stats end up making these things worthwhile. When they originally were introduced, the Marauders were basically just better battleships that only fitted 4 guns, but got a 100% damage bonus. And there it closes down. Anyway, also in the server, I've noticed, which is kind of not really part of Rubicon, this is the Golden Pod. You can buy the Golden Pod implant on the test server. The only way to get the Golden Pod is to pay the $150 for the 10th anniversary collector's edition, which I wish would sell for Plex, because I would buy it in an instant, but I don't know if I'm going to spend $150 on a internet spaceship. Oh wait, there is Star Citizen. The Gold Pod is an implant that you plug in, and it means that whenever you fly around, you now have a Golden Pod. Moving on, of course, speaking of pods, they have added new death animations that are racially differentiated. This is what a Caldari Pod looks like. Yes, there I am, floating there. Obviously naked and Caldari looking. Apparently, they said there's racial variations in this, and if you can spot them, we'll take a look. This, I believe, is a female Galente. Yes, there she goes. Or, yes, obviously rags of cloth in just the right place to make sure that it gets its teen rating. That is a Galente female. Moving on, we have... what do we have? We have a Minmatar Male this time. Yes, now he is obviously a much more tougher... The avatar for that guy looks like Kanye West. Can you see that? And... this is an Amarian female. Again, a bunch of fabric and stuff in just the right place. We'll give Rubicon a little more coverage later, but until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.